welcome back. Today we're going to be ranting about Doogie Kameāloha, which is a Disney Plus original series and one of the best things that has come out of Disney Plus thus far. I am absolutely in love with the show. It has turned into one of my comfort shows very quickly, and I just need to share it. I need to share with you how much of a treasure this show is. So, the basic premise is that Doogie Kameāloha is a teenage doctor. She's 16 years old, and she is just trying to live her normal teenage life. Before we get into it, let's go through our list of characters. Of course, we have our main character, Kameāloha.
She's like a real-life Doogie Howser. That's why we call her Doogie.
Oh, I never made the connection.
I'm gonna be honest, they only call her Doogie like 10 times in the entire show, and that's kind of disappointing. Like, that's supposed to be like her nickname, and no one calls her it, and that's fine. It doesn't matter that much. Something I noticed. She is currently stuck between serving her residency at the hospital and trying to live her life as a normal teenage girl. This, of course, leads to a whole bunch of hijinks and whatnot, and we'll get into that.
You shouldn't worry about her. Or our other two. Straight C's and only eats pizza bagels?
Layla has two brothers, one older, one younger, Kai and Brian Patrick. Don't ask me why they named their youngest Brian Patrick. That seems mean. Brian is such an outdated name, and Patrick is also an outdated name, and then you gave him both of them as his first name, and that just feels really mean. But it's probably because they hate him, so.
Got a C in math, which the teacher says is the median score.
And I had a pizza bagel for breakfast and lunch.
Unfortunately, Layla sucked all the brain cells that the family had, so both of these brothers are lacking in brain cellular source. Moving on to her best friend Steph, she's just the quirky fun character.
Translating emojis is my life's work. That and perfecting my moves.
She's a real one. I'm gonna be real. She is the best as a friend. She has Lahala's back, and anything she needs, she's there for. So, you know what? No complaints. Okay, one complaint.
Spill the tea, girl. I pushed our mailman down to get here.
She has this huge crush on Lahala's brother, Kai. He doesn't know she exists. He is very orange cat coated. Like, there is not a thought behind his eyes, almost ever. So when I'm first watching through the series, I'm like, oh, it's just one of those things. It's just part of her quirkiness, we kind of just ignore that part. No. These writers said Sty is real. Yes, their ship name is Sty. We're just gonna have to get past that. I don't know either.
I can't lose her, not because of a cake.
So at the end of the first season, Kai ends up kissing Steph. And
Love,
it's just one of those things that is like, at first you're like, oh, okay, like maybe I can get behind this. And then the further it goes along, you're like, ooh, I don't like this anymore. I don't like it. Guys, we can stop. I've changed my mind. Back it up. So season 2 rolls around and she's decided that she's gonna make her move.
I'm gonna hit the dance floor, bust out my moves I've been perfecting with the Royals, and then once I have his attention, I ask him, what's up?
This plan might have worked if he had, again, a single brain cell, but he does not. And so she does a little thing and tries to get his attention. He's just completely oblivious. And so she storms up to him and she's like,
Why am I wasting my youth, my beauty, my killer dance moves on a guy who will clearly never appreciate me?
He just stares at her like she is, like he doesn't know who she is. He thinks she's crazy. He has no clue who this girl is who just walked up to him and braided him for no reason. He he's never met this girl in his life. I am a firm supporter of the headcanon that he doesn't know who she is. He is so oblivious in life that every time she pops up, she is a new person to him. And you cannot convince me otherwise. Look at him.
Are you seeing this?
Yes, but are you seeing me? Can't you just tell me what's going on between us? Say something.
So her yelling at him actually sparks like a thought in his brain, and he's like, oh my god, wait, I like her back, but I totally blew it now because she doesn't like me because I didn't acknowledge her. And so he goes on this whole little journey to try to win her back. He spills spaghetti on her. He scrapes up his face in the process of spilling spaghetti on her. He joins a dance competition and does just the cringiest dancing. Like, I've seen Find Me in Paris, but this is worse. Also, the block was there. This might be a great time to mention that I get secondhand embarrassment really badly. Like, I sometimes have to walk out if a show or movie is being too cringe and like go stand in the other room and just like close my eyes. It's just like, it's not real. It's not, it's fake. It's a show. It's okay. Like, I can't do it. I don't know how I survived this show. The training montage was bad. First of all, they called a Shanae a pirouette. If you can't even get that right, how am I supposed to believe you got any of the medical terminology right? Like, this takes 2 seconds to Google. Those are 2 very different terms, actually. It doesn't matter because the dancing distracts from the fact that they don't know their terminology, and it's so bad. And he stops in the middle of his dance because he gets nervous, and that freaks me out. Like, I told you, I get secondhand embarrassment. That's worse. Me thinking about how everyone else is just watching him stand there go like this. That's mortifying. That's terrible. Get off the stage or do something. Get off the stage or do something. Get off the stage or do something. Despite the fact that it was just a mortifying ordeal to witness, Steph really liked it, and they end up making out in the rain. After they kiss in the rain, the next day they decide to hard launch their relationship at school.
You ready for this?
Let's go get him.
When I tell you this is one of the worst episodes, like the rest of the episode is actually fine. It's just, remember how I said I needed him to stop dancing? It gets worse. It gets worse. How does it get worse, you ask? How could it possibly get worse? They have a musical dance number in school. The dancing was bad enough. Him doing his solo? Whatever. I got past that. Watching through this season again, I blocked out the fact that they had a dance number. That's how traumatizing it was. I didn't even remember it happening. I was so mortified. Both times probably, but I only remember the second time that I was just like watching through my hands, which is how I watched most of the show. So after they are just like all over each other, and it's just kind of really gross and uncomfortable.
And if you're there, you'll roll up your sleeves, exposing those forearms. Maybe get a little muddy. Break a sweat from the heat of the kiln.
Here's my gorgeous girlfriend. I skipped class so I could have lunch with you. I was thinking we could walk all the way to Starbucks with our hands in each other's pockets.
Steph ends up getting upset. She ends up being like, yo, you're in my space. You're being too much.
I can't take this anymore. I feel smothered, Kai. You're smothering me.
And like, I get it. I really do understand. Like that, it was too much. She was being too much. But she started it. It's literally canonical that she like routinely would go hide under his bed, wait until he went to sleep, and then pop out and confess her love. Like that's canonical.
To hide under your brother's bed, pop out in the middle of the night and confess my love, but I don't because your mom told me not to do it anymore.
Like she started this. She's Frankenstein and that's her monster.
Did I do something wrong?
You're not giving me any space. I haven't even tooted once today.
So they talk it out and he agrees to give her more space. He's not that worried about it.
I'm just used to being solo Steph, you know? Independent. Having someone with me 24/7 it's new for me.
I'm sorry, Steph. It's just, you're my first real girlfriend, and I didn't want to mess things up.
And then they're kind of fine from then on out. Like they have their little issues, but like that's that. Here's where we meet Charles, Noelani, and Dr. Lee. And they are just the weirdest people.
It's us, Noelani and Charles. No and Chuckles. Knowles? Charlani?
Charles and Noelani are besties, and they literally go around the hospital doing everything together, which if this was an actual hospital would not be okay because you have separate patients that you need to take care of, and you can't just go around like abandoning your own patients to go check on this other person's patients with them and chat and whatever. It's fine.
Is the multi-car pileup all sorted then?
Yeah, it could use some tidying up. We should probably go.
Honestly, I think most of my dislike comes from this singular scene of them.
We're both sleeping on Charles's old bed.
She is such a cover-up.
You just run hot and kick them off. You're like a man-shaped crock pot.
Her feet are so cold they could have taken down the Titanic.
Okay.
They grossed me out, okay? I don't know what else to tell you. That was nasty. Why did they say that? Don't speak to me ever again, either of you. I can't say I ever liked them because they just have very little personality besides being besties. But I just think... Anyways, so yeah, they're best friends. They do everything together. They work the same shifts. They live in the same house. They sleep in the same bed, as we've just discovered. And they... I don't know what else they do. We have no clue. Dr. Lee, on the other hand, is the HR nightmare of the hospital. He's lucky the hospital is short-staffed. Otherwise, he would have been gone. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's not how the hospital industry works.
If you need me, do not call. I have a Tinder date with a girl who only takes group photos. Can't wait to find out which blonde she is.
He just shows up randomly to make people uncomfortable. That's like his job. And you know what? I could get over that. I moved past it. I was like, you know what? He's just doing his thing. Who cares? You know, he's whatever. That is until we start getting this Noelani x Dr. Lee fan fiction.
I just swiped right on Dr. Lee.
Why would you do that?
Dr. Lee, paging Dr. Noelani. Please report to the You Wish department.
If you remember, Kai performed in that show where he danced. We covered that. And Charles and Noelani were the ones who helped train him to dance and taught him that dance. And during that episode, Dr. Lee struts up to them because all of them are always on the same schedule, which is quite impressive for a hospital. Normally people are like staggered, but not this crew. They only work shifts together. So Dr. Lee walks up to them and he's like kind of criticizing.
You know, some guys care about good old-fashioned romance.
What's there to teach? You grab a girl and you give her a twirl.
And she's in love. And you think maybe it's just like a gag for one episode, right? Like, oh, you know, it's just them being silly. No. No. You'd be wrong. Remember how Kai and Steph were kissing in the rain? Well, guess who else was kissing? Sort of in the rain. You got it. It's Noelani and Dr. Lee. I literally closed my eyes. I turned around. I didn't want to see it. And it doesn't end there. There are 2 more episodes where we discuss their relationship, and it doesn't, I don't like it. I don't like it. And in the end, they end up getting together. It felt like such an unnecessary plot line to have because I didn't like it. And also, it had no bearings on anything. Like, I literally don't care. And it's not that the writers don't know how to write solid couples. Like, I absolutely love mom and dad. Like, they are fantastic. In my opinion, they're absolutely killing it. And I think they're enjoyable. They're cringy in a parent way, and I can relate.
Oh, that groove is infectious.
Her mom is such a girl boss. She's the head of the hospital. She's a mom of 3. And she manages to have somewhat of a life in between all that. And that's absolutely amazing. Although her and the dad both kind of play favorites with the boys, especially Kai. And I think that's because they don't want to seem like they're playing favorites with Hala. And so they give them a little extra attention, but in giving them extra attention, they like, it's middle child syndrome. There's nothing you can do about it. It happens. But other than that, I think they're absolutely fantastic. The dad is also fantastic. He's kind of our guide into like Hawaiian history and mythology and culture. He's the one who is constantly like bringing things up and showing them and introducing them to the kids, and of course us.
Great job finishing these.
Benny, I didn't finish it. I thought you finished it.
Well, looks like the men who recognize our goodness.
So like clearly these writers know how to make a great relationship and make me want to root for people, but they just decided not to, like twice in a row, which is crazy, especially given like, I'm gonna be real, Steph didn't have a lot of options. Like, we don't see a lot of like side characters. Her only other option as far as we know really are Spider, who is brought up like once, and Brian Patrick.
If I'd had known you were gonna grab my arm, I would have touched the cake with my butt.
So now that we've gone through all of the characters, let's get into what this episode is really about. You thought it was gonna be about Doogie Kameāloha. No, that's wrong. It's not. We're here to talk about the hated one, Walter. I cannot describe to you how much I dislike this character. He's not a terrible person per se. He's just, I don't like him.
Remember when I used to hold you in the palm of my hand?
Party at 12 o'clock.
I have tried to show so many friends this show, and it is 50-50 whether we get past that moment.
Excited for the dance on Friday?
Yeah, I am. 'Cause I'm going with you.
We see him running shirtless across the beach, and we're supposed to think he's the hottest man alive. So on top of the fact that I don't like him, he is just the dumbest ball of beans you'll ever meet. What does that mean? So we're not off to a great start. He's really gonna have to convince me that he's worth his salt if he wants me to get on his side. So naturally, he does the complete opposite. Like, he starts off okay. I'll give him props where props are due. He shows up to take Lahela to the dance.
You look beautiful.
Thanks. So do you.
Okay, thanks.
And he's very respectful of the dad. He brings a gift. He's like, wow, you're so beautiful. They take pictures. They go to the dance and they talk and they kind of relate to each other. And wow, it's so cute and magical. Whoopie-doo.
Sorry. It's the hospital. I have to call in.
Right now?
Sorry.
And she goes and she finds out her patient dies. And it was very nice of him to be understanding and all that. And then later in the episode, at the end, he sees her crying because she's upset that her patient died still. And so she's kind of trying to work through that on her own. And so he comes up and he's like, yo, what's wrong? And then when she doesn't say anything, he's like, you can talk to me. Like, you want to talk about it? And she does this, which is crazy. Normally not how conversations go, but that's okay.
A good friend once told me, you never forget your firsts. The first time you kiss someone and feel a spark. The first time you lose someone you really care about. It's true. I'm never gonna forget these firsts.
So the next episode, Lahela is giving the rundown to her bestie. They're chitter-chatting, they're going over what happened, and Walter just happens to come running by because he's surfing again. That's his life. He surfs. And she's like, "Oh, hey." And he like basically friend zones her on the spot.
What's up, dudes?
Dudes? Even ma'am would have been better.
So Lahela ends up spending the entire episode trying to figure out whether this boy who just took her to the dance and then kissed her, well, she kissed him, but whatever. He kissed back. She's trying to figure out whether he even likes her or not, because at this point she's confused. And so she makes a TikTok and he comments a caterpillar emoji. And that's really weird of him.
What does that mean? Does Walter like me or not? No clue.
She ends up planning this like really lovely date for them, right? She goes out onto the beach and she places down a blanket and she has these pillows and she sets up some fairy lights and she hires live music. The live music was a bit overboard, but if Lahela is anything, it is thorough. So she hires all this and it's very beautiful and very thoughtful, and she invites Walter down and she shows him what she did and he's like,
You like it?
Yeah.
which isn't a great reaction. And then he like kind of hesitantly sits down and he's kind of looking around like he's scared. And she's like, "Oh, whatever, blah, blah, blah." And then she like leans in for a kiss because I guess she thinks that's all you're supposed to do when you date someone is kiss them. And he absolutely swerves her.
Sorry, Lahela. I actually forgot I have to write a paper on King Kameāloha.
And she's like, "Oh, okay, like maybe I can help." And he's like, No, I gotta go, I gotta leave. And then she tries to like kiss him goodbye, and he he gives her a high five. I don't know. I have no words. That's mortifying on both sides. So at this point, poor Doogie is so confused. At the end of the episode, she ends up going to talk to him about it. Like, "Yo, what's up? Do you like me or not? Like, why'd you freak out the other day?" And he's like, "No, of course I like you." And then she's like, "Well, why did you freak out?" And this is his explanation.
Honestly, Lahela, that whole scene was a lot.
Pillows on the beach was too much for him. He got scared of pillows. Mans is afraid of pillows. And if I didn't like him before, from then on, it was straight downhill. Are you kidding me? I don't care that you're a teenager. I don't care that you're a teenager. Like, you can't be serious. Afraid of some pillows on the beach? Some fairy lights? I get the guy sitting there playing live music was a little weird, but that's something that you can easily communicate and get over. You ran away from pillows on the beach. So they end up getting over this whole pillows hurdle, and she agrees not to put pillows on the beach anymore. Even though they hang out, I forgot to mention, but they hang out on the beach all the time. And literally they've had dates where they lay blankets out on the beach and just sit there and chat. And all that she did was add pillows. Anyways, sorry. That's not important. What's up? So they continue on and they're in love and they're kissing all the time, and he's being very considerate of the fact that she doesn't have much time because she's always at the hospital and she's always on call for some reason. And so he's very considerate about that and she's very appreciative.
Love it. Now let's try one like you didn't just get kicked in the nads by a donkey.
Well, if you want, I can grab a wheelchair and bring you to the courtyard. They have the statue that looks like a giant butt.
I'm good.
You sure? It's where I go when I've had a rough day and needed you.
I'm watching this.
Hey, have you heard from Walter today?
Yeah?
We texted earlier, what? Thanks. Maybe because you saw me like that at mini golf, laid out on the ground, helpless. It was embarrassing.
Maybe we try something new tomorrow, like a poetry read?
So at the end of season 1, Walter ends up getting an offer from a pro surf team to join their team and train in Australia for the summer.
That was the Global Surf League. They want me to join the tour this summer in Australia. I'm going pro.
Frankie! Oh my god!
And so naturally this causes a bit of a problem because he's going to be moving to Australia for the summer and she's stuck in Hawaii, and long distance is really hard at that age, and they've only been dating for like maybe a month anyways.
But we can make it work.
Yeah.
So they're really worried, and Lahela tries to get a job working for the pro surf team, and it works, but her parents ultimately are like, no, you can't do this.
No, you're not going with your boyfriend to Australia at 16. You're way too young.
I'm basically an adult.
But you're not.
Bella, you can't leave residency now.
But it wouldn't...
Our answer is no.
So her response is to throw a temper tantrum, basically. And she's like, well, I went above your head and I asked, like, the CEO, and he said that I could have the time off. And she's like, well, as your superior, I'm gonna deny that request still. Like, I'm not gonna give you the time off. And she's like, okay, well, in that case, I quit. And she's like, no, you're not quitting. She's like, I quit. And so she quit so she can go to Australia with her boyfriend, which is such a teenager thing to do. Like, I don't fully blame her. Whatever. And so she tells Walter this, and Walter's like, well, that's really, like, cool of you, like, that you would do this to support my dreams and so that we can be together. But, like, I don't want you to give up your dreams and your goals for me.
I just won't go on the tour.
No, I can't ask you to do that.
You didn't. It was my idea.
She kind of thinks about it. She's like, you know what? No. I think that you should go, and I think that I should stay. That's the mature thing to do. That's the right thing to do. So we can both live our dream.
Are you sure this is really what you want?
Yeah.
So that's what they end up doing. They end up saying goodbye to each other, and he goes to Australia for the summer, and she stays there. And you know what? It's a decent ending because Walter's far away from here. Now you might be thinking, he doesn't sound that bad. He actually sounds like a really decent guy. And you know what? Aside from the fact that he's terrified of pillows, maybe he was. But then we get to season 2 and things take a sharp turn for the worse.
Yeah, Blake's throwing this impromptu party together for me to celebrate.
Oh, so do you want to do our date another time?
Crap, right, our date. Let me call you right back, okay?
Okay, because I can...
We find out that Walter is coming back, and all of his surf buddies are coming back with him, and they're all gonna live up in a sponsored house on the beach and continue their training here in Hawaii. So Lala is all excited because her boyfriend's back and they can spend time together again in person. Little did she know that Walter has turned into the biggest jerk during his time in Australia. Now, in my opinion, he's always been the biggest jerk, and I didn't like him, and he sucks, and he's ugly, and I hate him. But that was just me being upset, right? I could acknowledge that technically he was fine. No. Bro went and proved me right.
Hi, mates.
Hope you don't mind, I invited my buddy Blake.
He comes back, and we find out that one of his roommates that he talks about a lot, apparently, Blake, is actually a girl. And not only is she a very good-looking young woman, she's living in the same house as him and in the same room as him. They're sharing a room. Mind you, there are like maybe 6 of these pro surfers. Only one is a girl, and that one girl in this giant mansion they have just happens to be sharing with Walter.
Yep, you and Walter are done. Relationship over.
I was like, no, like, there's nothing to be concerned about, I'm sure. Like, girls don't have to be in competition with each other. It's okay. It's fine. But it is absolutely, like, not fine by any means. Because not only are they sharing a room, But little Miss Blake comes up and she's like, oh, I'm gonna tell you something that I think every girlfriend would want to hear when their boyfriend is rooming with another girl. I'm not into him like that.
He's basically my brother now. I love that Walter has a girlfriend like you.
She's like, he's basically like my brother, lol. Like, no need to worry. We're like siblings, basically. And also, like, he's so grateful to have you as his girlfriend because, like, he says that you're, like, basically his mom. What? His mom? His mom? She's his mom? And she reacts appropriately. She's like, what did she just say? Unfortunately, Blake's kind of right. Like, she is kind of his mom because he's so childish and stupid and I hate him. But, like, the audacity of some people. And then Blake keeps going around being like, oh yeah, like, it's so nice that you're responsible. Unlike us crazy heads who go around having fun all the time. Like, you're so responsible. You're not like us. And, like, she says it in a way that's, like, meant to be a compliment, but it's such a backhanded compliment.
I'm totally fun. And like all fun people, I'm gonna work really, really hard to prove it and then rub it in everyone's faces.
So Walter introduces her to his surfer friends, and he's the worst.
This is Ty, Adam, Sunny, and Blake's running around somewhere.
During their introduction, Lahela is doing her best to, like, try to interact and, like, engage with these people, but they all have these, like, inside jokes and, like, stories that they keep referencing, and that's, like, the only thing they talk about. And they're like, oh, remember when this happened? Remember this? And they keep making fun of each other. And she's like, oh, that's, like, what a great story. I'd love to hear it. And they ignore her. When I say they, I mean Walter as well. Like, Walter does not make any move to help her, like, fit in or, like, bring her into the conversation or catch her up or any of that. Which is crazy because, as far as we know, they've been in communication. And so he could have told her these stories at any point during that time. But he didn't tell her then, and he doesn't tell her now. Like, every time she tries to say something or, like, be funny or, you know, engage with them, they'll just kind of go like this. Including Walter.
If you guys want to check that out.
Lahela tries to prove that she's fun, and she throws a party, and she ends up jumping off a roof, which is absolutely crazy. But she's trying to prove that she's fun so that Walter likes her again, and, you know, Walter's kind of thrown off by this because he's like, this really isn't like you, but, like, whatever. This is the same party that Steph yells at Kai, by the way. And so another member of the party, one of Walter's friends, ends up climbing their tree and falling out of it and injuring himself. So Lahela and that whole group end up going to the hospital so she can, like, fix him up. And, like, after she fixes him up, she's like, oh, well, do you guys want to, like, go back to the party? Or do you guys want to, like, go get some food and, like, hang out and stuff?
You know, it's been an insane night. I think we're all just gonna head back to the surf house.
Okay, yeah.
Like, are you kidding me? Walter, how? Are you serious? You barely hung out with your girlfriend all night. Like, at the party, he only hung out with his surf bros. Those are the only people he talked to, were his surf friends that he sees every single day. And, like, Lahela tried to come up and talk to them, and again, they just stared at her like she was an alien or stupid or crazy or whatever. They were all just like, ew. And he also stared at her like that. And then when she's like, oh, I just fixed up your friend, Coolio, you guys want to go get some food? They're like, no. Hashtag worst boyfriend ever. Like, what? So tensions start to rise a little bit between Walter and Lahela. Lahela starts to kind of question whether she's really that into Walter. And Walter is just living his life. Like, I don't think he notices or cares. And he starts getting, like, the biggest head.
There's this big party tonight to celebrate. You think you can get off work and come with me?
Well, no. This is kind of a big deal for me.
Yeah, and tonight's kind of a big deal for me.
And mind you, this big night she's having she is heading her first shift, right? So she's going to be in charge of the entire night shift. And so that's her big moment. Like, this is a very big honor for her. And obviously she works at a hospital and she can't just, like, get a night off.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I get it.
And she's like, well, why don't we, like, after both of our events, after I get off work and after you're done with your thing, why don't we like meet up at our spot on the beach where you got scared of the pillows? But I won't bring any pillows this time. And like we can like hang out and catch each other up. She's like, oh, you know what? Okay, sure, we'll do that. And so she ends up getting there late. And we'll get to that in a bit. And he's nowhere. Like, literally, he's nowhere.
I was calling and texting you to say that I was gonna be late, but I guess you were too.
He's like, oh, sorry, I went to the after party and like lost track of time. Mind you, he's the one who told her to put an alarm on her phone, but he didn't put an alarm on his phone. Or if he did, he ignored it because he showed up really late.
Is it bad that neither of us showed up on time?
No way.
Which is kind of crazy because like she has an excuse. Like she was working. She got caught up at her job. He decided to go to an after party and just like forget about her. So that's wild. And it doesn't stop there. So after that little fiasco, we turn our attention to the jellyfish dance, which is basically like prom or whatever, I imagine. Steph is the one organizing this and she's very excited. She's telling Lahila all about her like little step and repeat that she's calling the Steph and repeat. And she's like, I can't wait for you to be there. Like you and Walter are gonna be so gorge. And Lahila's like, oh, well, actually, I don't even know if like me and Walter are going because he hasn't asked me. And Steph's like, oh, like I'm sure he just assumes that you're going together or whatever. Like no worries, like don't worry about it. So the dance gets closer and closer and Walter still doesn't really acknowledge that it's coming up. And so finally Lahila's like, yo, like, are we going to the dance together?
Oh, shoot, I've been so busy I forgot. But yeah, let's go.
So she gets ready for the dance and she's looking absolutely gorgeous. Stunning, mind you. Walks down the stairs, expecting a repeat of last time they went to the dance to find that Walter isn't there. He's at the house, but he stepped outside to take a phone call. And so she goes and Walter's outside with his car and she's like, hi. And he's on the phone and he basically just kind of ignores her. He's like, oh, hey. And he like opens the door from behind him and is like,
Uh-huh. Yeah, no, nothing. I could talk.
what? What? And she hears this and she kind of does a little frown. And I would be more than frowning. I'd be getting out of that car and being like, yeah, okay, we're going to either try this again or you can go to the prom by yourself. Like, seriously. So they make it to the jellyfish dance. And Lahila is very respectful of the fact that Walter doesn't want to take pictures for his social media. Tells Steph, she's like, oh, we're just going to take a picture for ourselves and that's all. So they go to get in line to get their photo taken. And they're interrupted.
Come take a pic with us, cover boy.
He kind of glances at Lahila and Lahila's like, yeah, sure, go ahead. So he goes and he takes pictures with all of these young girls. And all of them are posting all these pictures on their social media. And she's just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And there's just like nonstop photos of him with every girl in school but her. And it's crazy enough that he deleted her from his social media without mentioning it to her and without discussing it with her first. But it's even crazier that he's like, oh yeah, this is okay. Me taking a photo with everyone else under the sun is okay. And mind you, he didn't post it to like his social media, but everyone else was posting on their social medias. And like he didn't go to the dance with any of them. And she calls him out on it because even after he gets done taking pictures with every single young woman there, he still ignores her. Like he's on the phone talking in the corner, just like opposite. He is nowhere near her. She's by herself. And so she calls him out on it when he finally approaches her and he's like, it's kind of like we're not at this dance together.
You know, well, according to Instagram, you are with every girl here but me.
Are you mad at me?
Ain't no way you just said that. Ain't no way you just said that to me. You're the one who's been absent. And he's like, well, this is part of my work, blah, blah, blah. I'm always supportive of your stuff. Why can't you be supportive of my stuff? Like, I cannot tell you how upset that made me. Like, obviously it was supposed to make me upset, but I already hate him. And him saying that was like, oh my god. There's no way. It is not the same thing. I'm so sorry. You doing all these things that they're not required for your job. Like maybe they want you to rebrand your social media so that it's more surf related, and that's okay. That just needed to be a conversation that was had with your girlfriend before deleting her. Also, you can have a private account that's not dedicated to surfing. That's what most people do, is they have their public account and they have their private account. And so you didn't need to just completely like, what you're doing is not necessary. Taking pictures with all those girls, it's like, oh, it's part of my job. It's like promoting, it's branding. Like, yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. Whatever.
I can't believe you're being like this.
Steph said you're barely even going to school.
I've gone pro. I don't need any of this stuff.
Did I mention I don't like him? And so they get into it, and it ends with this little exchange.
Okay, so if I've changed so much, then why do you even want to be with me?
Well, maybe I don't.
Fine. Then don't be.
Which is, again, crazy. So naturally, they end up breaking up. And, like, thank God. I've been trying to get rid of this guy since day one. And Lala is devastated, and she goes and she cries, and her mom have a heart-to-heart, and it's very sweet. And then the best moment of this entire series happens. Before we get into that, we need to back up a little, because there is someone very, very important who I have been purposefully ignoring, and that is none other than Cancer Boy. Quick little editor's note here. I just wanted to briefly mention that I'm not making fun of the fact that he has cancer, or like I'm not making fun of cancer itself when I call him Cancer Boy, but rather I'm making fun of this silly little character in this silly little show written by silly little writers who didn't do any research at all for this entire show, and chose to give this kid cancer just for the drama of it all. Anyways, I just wanted to clear that up real quick. Back to the video. Cancer Boy, aka Milo Manheim, is the best character in this show. I don't know if I was having a good time or not, but as soon as he showed up, it got spicy. And let me tell you, this man makes one hell of an entrance. What? What? Like, I just need you to appreciate this for a moment, okay? Because what do you mean he's riding his dirt bike on the sidewalk, almost runs two people over, stops, takes off his helmet, winks at them, puts his helmet back on, and wheelies away. As if that's the hottest thing he could have done. As if that was like, wow, he almost ran us over. That was hot. Am I the only one who thinks that's insane? Like, why would you do that? Like, why would you ride your dirt bike on the sidewalk? Why would you do so close to those two people who were on the sidewalk? Why would you stop and reveal your identity to the two people you almost just ran over on the sidewalk? And why would you wheelie away after winking at them? And after all that, Lahela and Steph just go back to their conversation like nothing happened. Like they didn't almost just get run over. And this guy didn't just wink at them. Like if me and my bestie were on the stairs and almost got ran over, and then the guy stopped and then he winked at us, and we would be talking about it. We would be going crazy. Because, oh my god, why did that just happen?
Sure.
So that's his entrance into the show. And we meet him later that episode in a hospital bed, and Lahela's like, yo, like, you, like, run someone over in the dirt bike, you injure yourself like that or whatever. Like, kind of just giving him a hard time. As she should, because he almost ran her over.
What are you here for? Concussion? ACL tear?
Nope. Cancer.
And she's like, oh, that's not funny to joke about cancer. Like, you shouldn't joke about that. And he's like, okay. And she checks his chart and...
Oh my God. I'm so sorry.
And she's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And like, me, I'm like, nah, don't be sorry. Like, don't apologize. He almost ran you over. He deserved that. He deserved to be made fun of. Oh, I have cancer. Like, well, don't be a jerk about it. It's not an excuse. That's not an excuse to run people over on the sidewalk.
Hey, I get it. You are not the first person to think that my cancer is a dirt bike injury.
Despite this rocky start, Cancer Boy is immediately smitten, and he's kind of smooth. I'm not gonna lie. Like, the whole taking off your helmet and winking after you almost ran someone over, that wasn't very smooth. But everything else is. Bro, literally, like, the entire time this whole Walter situation is going on, he's over here in the hospital being like, yeah, you should break up with him. Yeah, you're feeling this way because you don't belong with him. You belong with me. At one point, literally, bro's flipping through a magazine that Walter was featured in, and he's like...
So what does he have against shirts? And also, why is he always kissing you on the head like he's the Pope? In this interview, he says, my favorite reading material is paper.
Like, I'm so for real when I say
He did not say that.
No, he didn't. But the fact you had to double check that tells us both something.
I like this guy. I like this man. Literally, Cancer Boy's biggest flaw is that he's a baby sometimes. Like, literally, he goes up to her at one point and he's like,
have you ever tried roasting your patients? I mean, like, really making fun of them.
Why would I do that?
And then like 2 seconds later, she roasts him because he's giving her a hard time about her boyfriend again.
Oh, all right, back to your boyfriend. Now, what do you see in Walter?
I don't think that's your concern.
And so she kind of like snaps back.
Mr. Judgy, and who are you dating again?
Not your concern.
Oh, so now you don't want to talk.
And she's like, well, I haven't seen any girls visit you in the hospital. Actually, I haven't seen anyone visit you in the hospital. And like, she goes a little too hard with it. And he's like, oh, yeah, cool, sure.
Yeah, cool.
Like, there's no way. You just told her to roast her patients. You're one of her patients. You literally just told her to do that. And then she does it and you're gonna be like, like, okay. And she's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Like, no, I don't care. You asked for that. You walked into that one. Maybe part of it too is because I roasted him for the same thing. Literally the episode before I was like, bro, no one's in here with him. He doesn't, like, at that point he didn't have like a book or a phone or a TV. Like, he was literally just staring at the wall. Like, someone get this kid a book or something. Like, why is no one here with him? And then the next episode they're like, oh yeah, it's because his parents are gone. Like, I think his dad left and his mom left and he's with his aunt and she has to work all the time to pay for his treatments and stuff.
I mean, besides my aunt, nobody cares what happens to me.
Oh, that's not true. I care.
And so, like, oof.
Well, you know, maybe all this crazy stuff happens to you because, unlike everybody else, you can handle it. You are not a black cloud at all. You are the sun that comes out after.
He's like completely flirting. He's romancing her.
Now that your shift is up, why don't I take you to my favorite spot in the hospital?
He takes her to the roof and they hang out and like it's like so romantic. And that's why she's late. Remember when I said she was late to the beach? It's because she was with him. She was with Cancer Boy on the roof of the hospital.
Really beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
Like, it's not even funny how crazy this is.
I'm so sorry. I'm supposed to be with Walter right now.
Really? Because I think you're right where you're supposed to be.
Like, oh my god. So, going back to the jellyfish dance, right? Before Lahela goes to the jellyfish dance, she's trying to convince Cancer Boy to, like, look forward to something because he's feeling really down about his cancer. It keeps coming back. Every time they think it's gone, it comes back, and he's just kind of done with the whole thing at this point.
Well, then you should definitely go to the dance.
What, like some desperate normie? Pass.
So she kind of gives a little snark back, and he's like, yeah, you know what? That sounds great. I do want to go to the dance. And she's like, great. As soon as we get like your results in and you're released because, you know, it worked and your cancer's gone, then you can like go to the jellyfish dance. And he's like, yeah, okay. And he gets really excited about it, and he even like finds like a suit jacket, and he's like, yeah, like, do you like it? Do I look good? She's like, yeah, like I can't wait to go. So she checks his like results, and her face drops.
I'm not going anywhere, am I?
And he is he's devastated. Like, bro literally wasn't expecting anything, and then she got his hopes up, and then now he's devastated.
Oh, please, I've spent the last 2 days looking forward to some stupid dance. Look how it turned out.
Like, I get it. It's really rough. She didn't mean to, like, get his hopes up for no reason, but, like... So she ends up getting all these decorations and putting them up in his room and putting on some music, and they end up dancing together, and then they end up getting a little closer, and then they almost kiss, and she's like, what? I can't do this. I'm your doctor. You're my patient. And also I have a boyfriend, but we forgot about him. And so she runs out, and she's like, I gotta go. And he's just kind of like, bro. Like, he's devastated. Bro is so in love. Bro is so in love with her. I don't even know what she did, but he's got it bad. So back to the jellyfish dance. Walter has just broken up with her because he's being the biggest jerk ever. Her mom has just come and had a talk with her, like, hey, how you doing? Like, first loves are hard and all this stuff. And then Lahela decides, you know what? I'm just gonna go home. And so she starts walking, and it's pouring down rain. And who does she see coming straight for her but Cancer Boy?
Hey.
Cancer Boy checked himself out of the hospital and showed up to the dance.
I'm not your patient anymore. You told me to find something to live for. Well, I did.
I'm the only one freaking out over here. Like, it is, when I tell you, it is the best scene of the entire series. Like, and mind you, like, IRL, it's not great because he has cancer and he checked himself out of the hospital so that he could date his doctor, and there's not a great legal situation here. And we probably shouldn't have done that, and I totally understand all of that. But in the context that this is a fake show and he doesn't actually have cancer. The next episode, since she's broken up with Walter, she immediately jumps into this relationship with Cancer Boy.
I thought I felt vulnerable in front of you because I was in a gown, but it turns out it's because you're gorgeous.
And they go on a little adventure, and it's cute. For the most part, she kind of goes a little too doctory on him. She's like tries to check his pulse one time when they're like supposed to be holding hands, and then he keeps wanting to do these crazy things, and she's like, we need to chill. So the entire episode, she's trying to convince him to go back to the hospital while also like having a nice day out with him, and he's like, no, I'm done with hospitals, I'm done with cancer, like, I'll just die, I'm just gonna live my life and I'm just gonna die. And she's like, that's not great, but okay, like, maybe we come back to this in a bit. They end up having a little spat about that. She's like, you have to get treated, like, you can't just like give up on this. There's a strong possibility that you can like overcome this cancer. And he's like, yo, I've been doing this my entire life, and every time it goes away, it comes back. Like, I'm tired of this cycle. I just want to live my life. And she's like, okay, but it'll be a lot easier to live your life if you didn't have cancer.
It's a cycle with me. It's remission and then readmission. But not this time.
And so he ends up storming off, leaves her in the middle of nowhere. Like, they came on his dirt bike. She has no way to get back to civilization. They are in like the mountains or something, so far away from home, and he left her, and she's just gonna have to walk back. Luckily for her, sort of, he ends up passing out on his bike. Like, he's riding his bike on the road, and I guess he passes out, and she ends up finding him, and she's like, oh my god, we got to get you back to the hospital. And he's only like half conscious, And when I tell you, she hops on that dirt bike. First of all, this dirt bike that we see in their little love montage, she doesn't know how to ride. She doesn't know how to do that. And we already know that she's really bad at driving. Like, she drives so slowly because she's so nervous.
A good driver is a safe driver.
5 miles an hour? 6!
And so those two things combined, plus the fact that Cancer Boy is only half conscious. Like, if he falls off that bike while they're going like, what, 40, 50 miles per hour, he's just dead because he was already unconscious, and then he's gonna be tumbling down that road, and they end up making it to the hospital safely, and she fixes him up, and they end up agreeing that he will try a new treatment plan, and he's not just gonna try to live with his cancer and then die, which is fantastic. And it's very cute and romantic.
Really? You're staying?
You are an amazing doctor, Lal. And when you make me better, I want you to be my amazing girlfriend.
After that, we don't really hear anything about it until like episode 9, where we learn that she cured him. His cancer's gone. He's fine. We and I'm not exaggerating when I say that we just like find out, because the episode just starts and they're like, oh, he's ringing the bell because he's cured cancer. I don't know. They were tired of him having cancer, so they wrote it out of the script. So he's magically cured, and technically it's not magic. Technically they have an explanation. But I don't know if it's legit or not. It sounds a little sketch. Whatever. So he's cured, and he rings the bell, and they go out, and they're like, oh my god, we can be a real couple now because I'm not your doctor and you're not my patient. Yay! And so they're all excited, and she ends up getting him a gift.
All I know is that I'm excited, which is why I got him this koa wood bracelet.
So fire!
He opens it, and it's a hospital bracelet. It is a hospital bracelet carved out of wood. She gave the poor boy, who has been telling her this entire time how sick he is of hospitals and has had to live his life in a hospital. Like, he didn't have a childhood because he was in the hospital with cancer the entire time. She gave that poor boy a forever hospital bracelet.
So, you never forget the battle we fought.
Wow.
When I tell you, I screamed. I shrieked at the top of my lungs when that was revealed. I was like, there's no way. There's no way she just handed him a hospital bracelet. Like, I've been to the hospital before. I've gotten a hospital bracelet. I wouldn't want to commemorate the fact that I went to the hospital with a permanent, like, bracelet. Let alone if I had lived my entire life there. Like, that feels like a chain at that point. That feels like... And like, it's one of those things where in her mind it was really thoughtful, and I get it. I do. Like, I'm not blaming her. But like, from any other perspective that's not hers, that is just the wildest gift to give this poor man. The wildest gift. And so naturally he's like not exactly excited about it. He's like, oh, like, here's why I'm not really excited about this, but like, thank you. It's very kind that you thought of me and like you had this made. And so she's kind of upset. She's kind of like, he didn't even like my gift, but what? And like, oof. Oof. But he ends up wearing it, like, and that's like very kind of him. Like, he ends up wearing it in multiple episodes. He has it on his wrist. And that's more than I could do. If I was in his position, I would have kindly given it back or set it on my dresser at home or something, like somewhere where I would see it, but I wouldn't, like, I would never put it on. I think that would be too much for me. I think I would crash out if I put that on my wrist. So now Lahela and Cancer Boy start like going on real dates and stuff, but Cancer Boy is like really triggered by anything that has to do with the hospital, and Lehela works at a hospital. And so it's kind of rocky because she's like, oh, at work this happened, and he's like, everything come back to the hospital. She's like, oh, like, we don't have to talk about that, we can talk about something else. So they end up stalking like this one little girl and watching her iPad. Like, she's watching her iPad, and they like look over the seat and like watch her. I would just like to give props to the little girl because she didn't seem bothered that they were watching her. If it was me, I would have been like, I'm not watching this anymore. Or I would have been like, Mom, can you just they're watching me, they're creeping me out. Negative points to the parent that was with that little girl though, because they just completely ignored that these two random teenagers were watching this show on their kid's iPad. Anyway, so they look at the iPad and they see that Beauty and the Beast is playing, and they're like, oh my god, I love Beauty and the Beast. And so they kind of like bond over that for a moment, and it's really cute. And so Lehela does her Lehela thing, and she goes a little too far with it, and she's like, well, we bonded over this, so let's have a date night where you dress up as the prince, as the Beast, and I'll dress up as Belle, and we'll eat dinner together. It's kind of a cute idea, and he's very sweet. Like, Cancer Boy's like kind of into the idea. He's like, yeah, I'm down. Like, this is cool. And to her credit, like, she looks gorgeous. Like, her dress is absolutely stunning. So they kind of killed the costumes there. He kind of looks a little dumb, but whatever. They're sitting there and they're enjoying their meal. They're having a good time. And then all of a sudden, the band starts playing Beauty and the Beast. And Cancer Boy clocks this, and he's like, and so I didn't remember this happening, but she takes his hand, guides him to the center of like this little restaurant, and begins to sing to him. She sings Beauty and the Beast. And like, he's glancing around like, oh my god, you're really doing this in front of people? And he turns and he walks away. And then he's like, just psych, and he turns back and he starts singing.
Just a little change.
So they sing a duet of Beauty and the Beast together, whirling around this restaurant, dancing. I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of romantic, but like, it was also like, oh my god, there's no way. There's no way. It was at least better than Kai and Steph's musical number. But like, it was still like, oof, why is this happening right now? But it was also kind of romantic, so whatever. They got away with it. They got away with it. They won. So after that, they kind of have a little chit chat on the balcony. And Kendra was like, that was really fun. Like, that was great. Do you want to go see a band with me on Tuesday? And she's like, oh, I would love to see a band with you. And she's like, oh, wait, Tuesday. I have a thing. Like, I can't. I have a thing. And he's like, oh, like, I mean, you can tell me what it is. Like, you don't have to, like, you can tell me. And she's like, oh, well, it's like, I have to give this talk at the hospital. It's about the treatment we used for your cancer, you know, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And he immediately was like, he's pissed. Because she mentioned the hospital. And I'm gonna be real, that was on him, because he's like, you can tell me. She tried not to tell him. She tried. And he's like, no, you can tell me. And then he got upset about it because it was about the hospital and it was about cancer. And he was like, God, after I got out of the hospital, I thought that I'd never have to hear about this again. And she's like, I'm sorry. Like, I just, like, I don't know what you want me to do about it. He's like, oh, I don't think this is gonna work out.
You really can't escape the hospital, can you? I thought so.
Like, what? There's no way. You relentlessly pursued this girl while she had a boyfriend, romanced her, charmed her, all this. And then as soon as you get out of the hospital, be like, I can't believe you keep talking about the hospital. Like, you're the one who decided to date your doctor. She worked at the hospital before you even showed up. What do you mean you're upset that she keeps bringing up the hospital? She works there. That's her life. That's how you two bonded. You guys were both like, yeah, our entire lives have been spent in a hospital. That's what started this whole thing, and now you're mad that she's bringing up the hospital? After she even tried not to. Oh my god. He decides it's too much for him, and he's like, I gotta go. We can't do this anymore. And she's like, okay. I'm gonna be so real. I honestly kind of feel bad for this girl. Like, Lahela is just here. She's just trying to live her life. And while it was very bold of her to go from one relationship to the next, like, Girly Pop is literally just in the middle of this thing. All these boys are having issues, and it literally hasn't been her fault even once. She's been doing her best. She's been trying. She's been putting in the effort. She's been showing up. All these boys out here are the ones that are whiny baby and can't handle pillows and can't handle the word hospital. I get it's a little more traumatic on one of them than the other. One of them should be able to get over pillows, and the other is a little touchy with the hospital thing. I get it. I understand. I understand there's a difference. But also at the same time, like, oh my god. This poor girl is having to deal with this. It's ridiculous. So we get to the finale episode, and nothing really has been resolved. We find out that Lahela needs to pick a specialty for like her residency program. She needs to pick her specialty, which my mother just happened to show up for that one and happened to be present, and she was like, why is she picking her specialty if she's already a resident? You do that before you begin your residency. That's what the residency is for, is to learn your specialty. Like, she shouldn't be picking it like in the middle of her residency or whatever. Like, she should have already picked that. So she's struggling to pick because she wants to do everything. She doesn't want to pick a specialty. She wants to do all the specialties, which is crazy because that's just not how this works. There's way too much to know about every single part of the body and every single specialty for her to be like, I want to do all of it, but whatever. And so she decides that she wants to try to open up a free clinic. Which, on one hand, good for her. Her heart's in the right place. On the other hand, there's no way on God's green earth that this hospital is gonna let you open a free clinic. There's no way. Capitalism is strong in this country, and it is not going to give way to Doogie Kameāloha. Like, I'm sorry. You're gonna have to pick a different dream here. And so she goes to the board and she proposes it, and the board's like, no, we don't have the money for that. We're not gonna pay for that, whatever. And so she's disappointed because she really wanted to do the free clinic. And so she thinks about it some more and she's like, you know what? What if I do like a hospital on wheels? Like, I take an old like food truck and I turn it into like a hospital and I just drive around and help people.
I love it. And it's small enough budget-wise that I can cover it without the board.
So now we're gonna let this 16-year-old, maybe she's 17 at this point, we'll say she's 17. We're gonna let this 17-year-old, who's bad at driving, by the way, let's remember that, drive around in a food truck with a whole bunch of medical supplies and treat people with no supervision. First of all, you're gonna get the pantsuit off of you. Like, you have no protection. You're just out here, like, and like, on top of that, there's no way you're gonna have the power necessary in that vehicle to be able to power some of that medical equipment that you have in there. And there's no way you're gonna have everything you need to help people. And there's no way you're gonna have any medications because you're not gonna be able to get your hands on medications as a 17-year-old. I don't know. She ends up getting her van and she ends up driving around. That's how the show ends. She drives around in her vehicle, just like, I don't know where she's going. She heads up into the mountains. I don't know. Maybe there's people up there who need help, but as far as I know, she's driving the wrong way. So I don't know. But before that lovely ending to our show, let's back up and talk about Cancer Boy one last time, because during this episode, Lahela is really worried about him because he's supposed to come in for a follow-up and he doesn't show. Like, he's no call, no show, doesn't come in for the follow-up. And so she's really worried that he's like in danger or in trouble. So she's really worried, but she continues on with her day, and the hospital is having a charity event that night. And so she's like, okay, at the charity event, I'm going to talk to the CEO and go above the board of directors that denied me my hospital, and I'm going to get this done. And so she shows up, and she's gorgeous. She's looking gorgeous, as always. So she's there for like a few minutes, and you will never guess who walks through the door. That's right, the man we forgot existed already. Walter himself. Walter shows up and he's like, hey, like, how's it going? And he got an attitude check, and I'll give him credit for that. He's like, oh, like, your brother asked me to come play piano because your piano person canceled, so like I'm here to do that. And she's like, oh, okay, that's very nice of you. And he's like, yeah, anything for you guys, but also I was really hoping to see you here because I just, wanted to see you and talk. So they end up going over to the piano, and he's like, oh, like, what should I play? And she's like, and he's like, oh, I know what to play. And he begins to not only play, but sing Bruno Mars.
My pride, my ego, my needs.
Like, there's no way this man, after pulling what he pulled, came here and was like, I should have bought you flowers. There's no way he's singing this song right now. There's no way he's doing this right now. Are you joking? Are you kidding? Are you?
Dancing with another man.
Like, talk about embarrassing as well, because he did it in front of everyone. Something happens, and the head's like, oh my god, I'm so worried about Milo. Like, and he's like, oh my god, like, let's go look for him. I'll take you to go look for him. So she, like, completely misses the CEO, and she leaves with Walter to go look for Cancer Boy. And they drive around, and Cancer Boy isn't anywhere. She's like, oh man, like, the CEO's gone. Like, I really blew it. This sucks. And we didn't even find Cancer Boy.
Maybe I shouldn't have left.
When someone you care about needs you, you help them, no matter what. I miss you.
And so Walter ends up confessing his feelings. Like, I mean, he kind of already did with, like, the song and then the whole, like, oh, if you care about him, I care about him thing. But, like, he straight up, he's like, I love you. And she's like, oh my god.
I love you, Lala.
Hello? My mom just fainted.
So she comes back to the hospital.
What happened? I just got a little lightheaded.
And so she decides to, like, step outside for a second. And guess who's there?
You okay?
It's Cancer Boy. It's none other than Cancer Boy. Cancer Boy's there, and he's like, hey. Like, and he's kind of like, I thought things over, and I want to apologize. And, like, I've decided that, like, I want to be with you. Like, let's date. Like, I love you.
Because I love you, Lal.
Oh, sorry.
Oops. Like, oh.
Just making sure you're okay. Your dad said you're pretty upset. I'm Walter.
I know.
This is Nico.
I know.
Like, Walter walks out. He's like, oh my god. Like, clearly, if you want him, like, you two, I hope you two are happy together. And then Milo's like, oh, you love him still, so I'm gonna leave. And she's like, and it's like, oh my god, this is so stressful and crazy and random. And then, before the episode ends, right before the episode ends, we have a quick little, like, meet up with each of them, where both of them look at her and they're like, I love you. And she doesn't respond and just walks away from both of them. Like, the Milo one is really funny. Like, Cancer Boy drove her out there. They're on this, like, mountainside on a road, and she just walks away. Like, he still has the bike. You clearly came here on his bike. Where are you going? And, like, the expression on her face and, like, the way she's walking, like, what? And I know it's supposed to be symbolic, like, oh, I don't need boys. And honestly, after the experience with those two, like, I get it. I get it. Move on, like, oof. But I don't know. I don't know. I genuinely, I don't know.
I choose me.
Long story short, please go watch this show. It is so mind-boggling, ridiculous, and entertaining. I love it. It is so horrible. And I hope you end up going to watch it and you really enjoy it and you have just as great a time as I did. Watch it with a friend if you can, because it is so much more entertaining when you two can look at each other like this. No one will believe you if you don't watch it with them.
Dutch. Party at 12 o'clock.
Anyways, thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey. I hope you enjoyed hearing me rant about the wonderful show Doogie Kameāloha. I know I had a great time rewatching this show, and I really do hope you go and watch it and then come back and tell me your thoughts and what you noticed about it, because there is so much that I just had to skip over, and I didn't even cover half of it. I was literally just here to tell you about how much I hated Walter and how much I loved Cancer Boy. Those were my only two goals for this episode. Comment down below whether you're Team Walter or Team Cancer Boy. Or Team Lahela. She didn't choose either of them, so maybe you're Team Lahela. I am torn, personally, between Cancer Boy and Lahela. If you haven't already seen it, go ahead and check out this video here. Otherwise, I will see you guys next time. Bye, lovelies!
Party at 12 o'clock.
Bro, got way too excited about this. I'm losing my voice.